message
Yeah.
for students.
So then this is when you go to your backup, and you turn it on. And then
You're 75%
I'm
of
gonna
the
turn it on,
population of
like
this
right about now.
town,
There'll be
and
some
you
extra,
ignore it.
but it's okay.
So
Hit record.
my advice
Can
would
type,
be
please wait, but when it
figure out what's
flashes,
going on and realize
I'm
that
gonna
you
flash
have
green or red.
potential for all the
I
power
see it so many times.
if you wanted it.
Yeah. Oh, it's red. So now we are recording. Captain's
They all
log
thought that was,
starting.
but they
January
never knew
21st,
there's only
2025.
twice that I know of.
Say hello, Ash.
1977.
Okay. So then I put this up here.
Do you do that?
One was liquor by the
Because
drink.
that is your last line of defense. If the video doesn't work, if the stream
They came out of
something's
the
wonky,
woodworks and the
if we
landlord
lose sound during the middle, we can take sound from that and edit it together.
rented
That's a whole other software that I would recommend.
from all over town.
Maybe asking if I'm not there, ask Next Step. I use that software when I podcast, so
No, it was,
but
so
it's not something that's normal.
state law says people have to vote on it to allow it.
So
Back then,
when
we
they come
didn't have
back,
any restaurants.
they have to record that they're back from executive session.
Yeah, has
So
anybody ever
they will
told you about
motion
3-2 beer?
second.
Yep,
So that always
that's
stays
when I
there,
came
then
here.
we'll start with
Oh, yeah,
roll
3-2
call again.
beer was all we had.
Never not been.
3.2% alcohol beer.
That's right, for 18 and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, you could drink it and drink it and drink it and drink it and drink it, and you would get sick before you would ever.
Council was
Get blind
so,
drunk.
was so anti
No, I just do it here. Yeah,
that the students just got up
and then who was here for the
drafted
executive
me
session?
to
So
run
like,
for council.
but then here's for me.
And so I had
Because
a
that'll be two
student
separate sections.
campaign manager. And I went and talked to
And
students.
that's just for
That
the
was my
graphics. Like you
main
do have to
campaign.
list it, but the way you keep track of it is
That
up
was
to you. That's just the way Megan
1986.
taught
Oh,
me.
you like a favorite professor?
She was very much,
So I,
this is how you do it.
Yes.
good. And, you know, I agreed with them. They were being screwed over and they were making decisions that had no common sense, like the one that
Because
got
I didn't get over there
finally
fast enough.
took the
Because
balance
I had
away.
people like,
There's a house on Church Street, and when it was built across, they had little itty bitty lots.
No,
It was all
they're-
built
they're-
across the two lots in the right here. So they went in and said, we want a lot consolidation. And council refused the lot consolidation, even though it had functioned as a single lot for
but
100
I think
years.
if I wasn't here,
Because
like, they would be nice.
it is
and they
possible
know you're
then
not-
that they could
not
add
nice,
on
but
to
they
it.
would just be
You
more
know, their
mindful, like, oh,
different
she's not used to this.
Sure.
setbacks and everything would come into play, and they didn't want any additions, even though it would be reasonable to have them.
Video recording,
Because
getting
of
an
how
alarm.
it's been treated as a single lot. So that flipped people out
The students were mad about that?
very mad.
Oh, okay. Surprised.
Well, it was a fraternity owned the property. Yeah. That's a good point. But I wouldn't say it was a huge turnout of students, but. So it's probably the second highest. That got Alan Kiger and me elected. Alan figured out what was going on and he said, I want to go with you whenever you go to those classes. We became buddies then. Okay, can I have a motion
Yeah.
to adjourn from executive session at 7:30?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Chantel. All those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. All right, roll to be called one more time.
Miss Ragu?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Miss Franklin?
Here.
Mr. Prithridge?
Here.
Mayor Snavely?
Here. We will have a pledge of allegiance. If people would like to join us, you're welcome.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. The first item is approval of the agenda on page 1 of your agenda. Can I have a motion to approve it?
So moved.
So, second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any changes or additions or corrections? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. At this time, we will go to public participation, and the first item is appointments to boards and commissions, and we have one unexpired term on the Environmental Commission.
I'd like to nominate Michael Vanny for the Environmental Commission.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Michael is appointed. At this time, anyone, he said to this massive crowd, anyone wishing to address council on items that are not on tonight's agenda, or if they're on the consent agenda, now would be your opportunity, and you can come up. I know each one of you, and so, but you still have to give us your name and where you live. We'll give you 5 minutes. Okay. Thank you all for coming on the coldest night I've ever been on a council meeting. All right. Next is consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve it?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any items to be removed? Okay, all those in favor of approving it indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the consent agenda is approved. We'll move to resolutions. You can read the first one.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Next Step Networking for on-site weekly support services at a cost not to exceed $76,000.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Second. Oh,
It's been moved and seconded. Hi, Jessica.
Good evening, councilors, Mr. Mayor. This is a routine contract with Next Step, but it is over $50,000, which is why we're bringing it to you. It is in our annual operating budget. But what this provides is for on-site staff once a week with Next Step Networking to provide IT technical support. And the average hours are 8 hours a week at $52,000, but we have a buffer there of $24,000 extra dollars for just in case if something happens to call on their support during the week. We found this to be working very well the past couple of years and would recommend adoption. Go forward with them.
Is there anyone from the public who would like to address this resolution? Thank you. Councilors, have any questions or comments?
So I guess just have a question about how big picture you found this compared to having an on-site IT person. I know the IT role has really been evolving over recent years, and you've done this for the last however long, but can you just, for the public who might be like, why are we contracting this out versus employing someone? What have been the pros and cons of this?
Yeah, so in exploring this, the cost of an on-staff IT person is quite high, and you kind of get a jack of all trades but an expert of none. And so that is complicated sometimes with the diverse needs of IT within a city. And so by contracting with Next Step, similar to like when we contract with a law firm, you get kind of one point of contact, but then whenever you have needs, they can send it out to their experts in various areas. And so they've helped us with policy, like IT policy. They've helped us with cybersecurity. They've helped us with, printers and setting up desktops and those kind of things. And so it's really kind of a robust support that we get versus hiring what we could afford one person to do kind of all of that on their own or lessen the support of Next Step. So for now, this is working and this is our recommendation.
Well, and just looking at the amount that you have, if you were to imagine what you pay an IT person with their salary and benefits, it would likely exceed this amount, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Are you ready to vote? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the resolution's adopted. You can read number 2.
A resolution authorizing payment of $131,439 to Cobblestone Community Church Incorporated, an Ohio corporation not-for-profit, for the acquisition of an easement for the construction of the Oxford Area Trail System Phase 5.
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the resolution. Michael, welcome.
Good evening, Your Honor, members of council. We need the cooperation of several property owners in order to build Phase 5 of the Oaks Trail. So Cobblestone Community Church is one of the largest easements that we'll need to acquire. So we have been working with O.R. Colin, a real estate valuation appraisal company. They established a fair market value for this property, and the church elders have voted to accept that offer. So they're all in agreement. This is cordial, and ask for your approval of the deal so we can acquire this easement.
Okay,
Be glad to answer any questions.
thank you very much, Mike. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to address this resolution? Counselors have any questions?
I just wanted to express thanks to Cobblestone Church and the elders. This kind of conversation about how to route a public trail across private property can go a variety of different ways. And of course, the city would much prefer to do this in a cordial way without having to resort to eminent domain. And I don't think we have yet needed to use eminent domain on the path, but that's because we've had cooperative landowners. And 3 acres of easement is a lot. I think it's gonna add benefit to the church, but 3 acres of their land that they can't use for something else is significant, and so it's not cheap, you know, the easement isn't cheap, but this trail is not cheap, but this is gonna be so exciting. So thanks to everybody who's worked on this, but especially to Cobblestone Church for being so cordial and collaborative.
Any other comments or questions?
So, Your Honor, if I may, I should make it clear, there'll be 2 payees with this payment. The total will be what was stated, but $48,000 will be to Cobblestone's mortgage company, who is demanding their share. Cobblestone would have been glad to donate that, but the mortgage company prohibits that. So there'll be 2 checks totaling the stated amount.
Okay, thank you very much. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution's adopted. We'll move to ordinances. We have 3 first readings where we do not vote on them. But you can read the first one.
An ordinance levying upon the lots and lands enumerated in the list of estimated assessments and the amounts set forth on such list, and setting forth terms for payment of assessments.
Okay, excuse me. Mike?
This is the 4th and final piece of legislation for last year's curb gutter sidewalk assessment program. We gave until the end of the year, December 31st, if a property owner wanted to pay their assessment in cash. So 21 property owners opted to do so. Those that did not are listed in the appendix, and we ask for your approval at the next meeting to proceed with the assessment and send in the information to Butler County Tax Authority.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to address this ordinance? Counselors have any questions or comments? Dave?
I just have a question. So 24 is almost in the books and now going into 25. When will we start the first process of step in the 25 process?
We would have in January, but the snowstorm has impeded our effort to measure and mark.
Okay,
So as soon as we get a thaw, we'll be in the 50s in about a week to 10 days.
okay.
We'll be out, and we'll be here, hopefully the first meeting in February.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? This will come up at our next meeting for a vote. Okay, you can read the second one.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 3783, supplemental budget ordinance number 1, to make supplemental appropriations for fiscal year 2025.
Okay, and we have Heidi.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This supplemental is to make an adjustment to the budgeted appropriations to the capital equipment fund for the purchase of a snow machine to perform the snow clearing on the Oats Phase 4. This machine must also be rated for the trail's elevated bridge, so
Okay, thank you very
Bringing
much.
to you tonight.
We appreciate it. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to address this one? Okay. Counselors, so this is going to clear the pathway mainly for students walking to schools and between the 2 schools on the next part of the trail. And I didn't want to raise people's expectations that the whole recreational trail will be
This would be Brookville Road, all of the trail on Brookville Road, and also Oxford Riley Road.
Mhm.
So students will have a clear path to get to the middle school.
Okay, thank you. All right. Did I ask if people wanted to talk about it?
I just wanted to say thank you. I know that the idea of building a path that replaced sidewalks was, we talked about this before, is kind of like a new thing for the city to get into. In the past, we've said that's a recreational path, we're not gonna maintain that. I think that answer just became less tenable when it was the only pedestrian access for people along major corridors and to schools. And so the idea, I mean, we're committing to this piece of equipment and then the staff hours to operate that equipment. So, yeah, that if the city, the pathway is cleared because of the commitment of the city to carve out the money and the staff time. And for that, I'm really appreciative to the administration for stepping up to that challenge. I was really proud to see in the snow that that pathway was cleared to the middle school.
Any other comments or questions?
I think the interesting thing about this is the partnership between the city and the school district. Even though the school district isn't necessarily asking for it, right? But it's the right thing to do. And I know that whenever we look around the rest of the county, Hamilton has a very robust relationship with their school district, the city of Hamilton, and they've learned to kind of grow together. And so that would be something really interesting for us to try to figure out how we can even more so partner together.
Yeah, at some point, it might be worthwhile to have a joint work session. See what issues.
Yeah, because some of the trail is actually on Talawanda property, right? I mean, good bit of it. I'm not sure what effort they've made. I mean, ideally, but, yeah.
So we partner routinely with Talawanda. We plow and salt University Park Boulevard, and including the main road through their private property. And they're excellent at paying their bills. It's only 10 days before we get payments. They're a
All right.
good partner.
Good to hear. All right, again, this will come up for our vote at the next meeting. You can read the third.
An ordinance repealing Code Section 52106, duty to keep sidewalks in repair and clean, and adopting new Oxford Code Section 52106 entitled Duty to Keep Sidewalks in Repair and Clean.
Okay, and Doug, you're going to talk about this one?
Sure. The city of Oxford has approximately over 70 miles of sidewalks. The snowfall that occurred on January 5th and 6th resulted in many hazardous locations where sidewalks were not cleared. I want to thank those businesses and property owners that did clear their sidewalks because it was a significant amount of snowfall. But this proposal will address the property owners on the snow routes and also on the route to the middle school. So each year, when we get snow, we get complaints. And as you know, and I've got a PowerPoint here, and what I've done is, this is the existing ordinance. Basically, it's real simple. The property owners or the occupants of abutting lands need to keep their sidewalks, it also says curbs and gutters, free from snow, ice. And whoever violates this section is guilty of a minor misdemeanor. We've never enforced that. One of the problems that you have is if we did enforce it, we're just writing tickets and the snow's not getting cleared. Now, I need to give credit to David Prithridge because he forwarded me some pictures. Very good pictures. This is sometime, I'm guessing, after the snowfall because you can see the footprints. This is Lynn Avenue on the Monroe Muffler side, Taco Bell side. This is Fairfield Road, just up from Speedway, Kroger site, where a bus stop is located. You know, the area in front of the bus stop is clear, but not to get there. And then the last one is High Street, and I think I don't need to tell you whose property that belongs to. That's the former bookstore. So here's 3 examples of hazardous conditions. So the proposed ordinance that you have before you tonight basically includes A, which is no owner or occupant shall fail to keep their sidewalks free from snow and ice. And that references an Ohio Revised Code section that's still in effect, 723.011. And then we also have an E, whoever violates this section is guilty of a minor misdemeanor. But what I've added is a B, C, and D. So every owner or occupant of any building or lot fronting on any street, alley, or other public highway of the city shall clear the sidewalks in front of the building or lot of snow and ice before 10 a.m. of the day following any such deposit. So if the snow continues, let's say to noon, you have the next day until 10 a.m. If the owner of any building or lot fails to comply with the provisions of this section, then the director of service, by force account, and that means our crews, or contract, may remove the snow or ice from the sidewalk and charge the expense thereof to such owner. If upon being notified, the owner fails to pay the city the amount of such expense, then the amount shall be certified by the finance director to the county auditor, and the same shall act as a lien upon the property of such owner, and shall be collected as provided for in the case of special assessments. So those three sections are added in this proposed ordinance. Now here's the snow routes, because what I'm proposing is that we focus on the snow routes. You can see, well, you probably can't see because it's hard to read, but this is available on our website. And Lynn Avenue, for example, is on our snow route. Contreras and Fairfield Road, Chestnut, Sycamore, so on and so forth. I think you're familiar with our snow routes because you can't park your cars there. Level 1, 2, or 3 snow emergency. So we're proposing to focus on the snow routes, plus the middle school route that Mike mentioned, the Oates Trail route on Brookville Road and 732 South. So, as I said, we'll focus on the designated snow routes, plus I should say US 27 North and South, because the state's responsible for snow plowing on those. And I don't think they're included in our snow routes from that map. There's no parking basically in those sections, but we're going to basically focus on those as well. So that's the proposal. And I'd be glad to entertain any questions or comments that you have on that. This program will require, I'm estimating, about $20,000 because there will be property owners that fail to clean their sidewalks. I would expect that at the beginning of the snow year next year, that we'll send out to the property owners along there a note that here you're responsible for this, and if you don't do it, we're going to clear it and bill you. And I think in our fee ordinance, we have an additional fee of 40% over and above the cost of doing that. So I think that should provide an incentive for those property owners. This is a big change, because there are a lot of property owners that have failed to clear their sidewalks of snow and ice. For example, I went by all the gas stations. To my knowledge, none of them cleaned their sidewalks. Their pavement is nice and clean because they paid someone to do that. And that's how they get their revenue. And not to pick on them, but the same can be said of Kroger's and TJ Maxx. They didn't clean their sidewalks. So, this is a big change. It's, a big responsibility for the city, but I think it's time to do it.
I have a couple of questions.
Certainly.
Then we'll go to public comments, and then to council comments. How many properties would you estimate we're talking about would be affected by this proposal?
Off the top of my head, I'd say probably close to 100.
It looked to be like maybe more than 100.
Could be.
And do you know approximately what the fee or charge amount would be?
Well, we estimated, and I think I have that in my file, we would do it by a lineal foot, and I think, let me see if I can find it from, this was several years ago that we estimated it. And can see I have a big file here, so bear with me. What's your next question?
Okay. How
You
many,
know
what is the staff requirement in order to enact this? How many staff would be required to do this?
I'm not proposing any new staff. I think we can, help me out. We had one snowfall this year so far. We might not have a big snowfall next year, you
Right.
know. Several times we've had snowfall and it's melted within a couple days. So we may, if this is not unique and we have plenty of snowfall, we may need some extra staff, some part-time staff, but I'm not proposing any new staff.
Okay. This came from, I've gotten a lot of correspondence on this.
And so
From
have I.
people who didn't want to come in the cold. But
Yes.
Here's one of the questions. What if somebody does clear their sidewalk by 10 a.m. and then the snowplow comes along and puts snow back on it?
Good question. I think we would probably exempt them.
Okay. Okay. How much snow activates this rule? In other words, sometimes we get a dusting and it melts by afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's 1 inch, and
Yep.
how much snow do we have that,
Well, as you can see, it's not spelled out in the ordinance, so.
I did notice, that's why I asked.
Yeah. You know, possibly we should put in a figure of, let's say, 2 to 4 inches.
If I could follow up with a question on that one, I guess that, I mean, the ordinance at one level, it's setting the expectation of snow clearance, but it's also an ordinance about enforcement. And I'm wondering whether the snow emergency at one level or another might not be a clear trigger. You know, I'm just, that is a question, if you want to set a threshold, whether we might not want to consider any level of snow
That's
emergency
something
with
we
just
can
3
talk
inches. Yeah, we
about
can
in-
talk
Sure.
about it. So that's just-
This is the first reading, and
Yeah.
staff and I can discuss it, and we can discuss it at the next council meeting.
Last question.
Yes.
It's obvious that we do not require, ask, or expect people to clean their curbs and gutters. Is it possible to remove that from this ordinance?
Sure, sure.
All right, so those are my questions.
And I found the estimate. Now, this estimate
Okay.
was back, we've been I've got a file here. It seems like every 2 years, 3 years, we have a big discussion. There's a lot of letters in here from one council member. I can't remember his name, but anyway, the estimate was 8.5 cents, and this was in 2016, so I would guess it's double that, if not more,
Per linear foot.
Per linear foot.
per linear foot, excuse me.
Okay.
And what we'll do is, you know, if this passes, we'll have to get a list of contractors. I noticed, you know, a lot of folks that were plowing parking lots and so on and so forth. Several of them have snow blowers in their back of their pickup trucks, so I'm guessing they might be interested after those parking lots are cleared. But we'll see. This is an experiment.
Okay.
You know, what you find if you look at other city ordinances is, this is primarily in the northern regions, Cleveland, I think Willoughby, Bowling Green. I did not find any in the southern regions, but just in an afternoon of searching the internet.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address this ordinance? Mr. Hand, come on forward.
Who we know isn't afraid of the snow because he came out tonight. It's -1 degree.
Yeah, hello, Vincent Hand, 511 East Chestnut Street, on the snow route. I want to start with a couple of asides. One is, I think the snow removal by snow crews in this latest snowfall was excellent, and I want to express my appreciation for that. I also want to say that I'm generally in favor of this ordinance. I walk, but I do have some questions, and actually you started, it sounds like you've gotten them already, Mr. Mayor. Mine are similar. One is that as written, subsection A includes a reference to curbs and gutters, and clearing curbs and gutters is a whole different animal from clearing sidewalks. And my concern was also about, and it has happened to me more than once, although not this year, that I clear my sidewalk and then the snowplow comes again, maybe a day or so later, and covers it with a good bit of slush, which is even harder to remove than the snow. So I do hope those things will be considered in whatever amendments you make. Okay, that is pretty much it. I just want to reiterate, I'm generally in agreement with the ordinance. I hope that you tweak it a little bit.
Okay, thank you, Vince.
Thank you.
Okay, counselors?
I want to start with a thank you because I'm a person who loves the snow. Whenever it snows, I'm super excited. And then I start walking and I start grumbling because many of my neighbors are great neighbors. They work hard to clear the snow because I think they're neighborly. They know it's their responsibility by law and also to the community to provide accessibility for people who are walking and kids who are walking to Kramer and people who are, unable to drive. But then I get to those property owners who also happen to often be our major property owner groups, our major landlords who make zero effort to clear the sidewalk. And sometimes it's fine, it's a 1-inch snowfall might be slippery, but when 10 inches falls, the roadways are just the sidewalks are impassable. And that presents, if you're a pedestrian, two choices. One, you trudge your way through the snow or ice at great risk, or you walk in the street at great risk. And to me, I've always it's really kind of bothered me from a basic fairness point of view. Like, we make great efforts. I could, I don't know, Mike, if you have an estimate on how much that last snowfall cost us dollar-wise in labor and materials?
About $65,000.
Okay, so and however many hours of overtime, $65,000, we make that commitment to maintain our roadways clear for motorists. And I know that by the ORC and our ordinances, the sidewalk is the responsibility of the property owner. But while we have these beautifully clear roadways, our sidewalks now are 3 weeks in completely impassable, and they force people to walk in the street. And so we've tried all the voluntary things, right, Jessica? I mean, like, we wrote content for the website, encouraging people to try to clear up the confusion about the liability. We said, hey, what would it do to a special improvement district uptown? And we got as far as that. No, if that doesn't work, how about a special? We've tried everything on the voluntary side that could possibly work. Really great. The mayor commented on how great the communication went out to the business owners saying, hey, it's your responsibility. And I think the people who are good, responsible people respond to that stuff and they do it. But when I see the Schottenstein Group in Columbus, which profits from hosting Kroger, plow their parking lots and pile the snow on the sidewalk, or the gas stations who will plow the driveways, but not the pedestrian, and I just start to feel like I just take offense to it. I feel like so. But we have laws, and so I guess I was going to just say that after 7 years of hitting on this issue, I don't know if you're referring to me in all those emails, I had reached a point where I was just like, what, I'm just giving up. I think Oxford's a wonderful town, but we do a terrible job with the snow, and it disappoints me, and I'm ready to give up. I'm almost going to go off council, and I was like, no, it's just not right. And so I think the solution that the city manager has proposed is a really good one. I don't think that the city is proposing a blanket enforcement strategy. I think that this can be targeted to the places where we need it to be. People need to get up and down the College Corner Pike to their homes and their jobs and their businesses. Just in the same way that we make an emphasis on the snow routes for vehicles, and you expect your cul-de-sac might not be treated for a while, I think we make a commitment, that same commitment to the snow routes. And that's where I think maybe tying it to the emergency declaration, which is it's about kind of on those major routes. I think there are a lot of questions about that I have that have already been raised. I think one, the law sets out the obligation, but the question of when we actually trigger the assessment part, you know, I mean, I don't think we're gonna do that for every dusting, right? You know, I mean, I think we would wait for some snowfall, and I would recommend that, maybe that's just an internal policy, that be, is it level 1, like 3 inch, it's like 3 inches or higher, level 1? Does that make sense as kind of like a threshold?
Yeah,
Or our discretion, we can declare an emergency
Yeah.
at a tenth of an inch of ice.
Yeah, okay. So-
Every storm is different.
Yeah, I think for our own, internally, it might be nice to have a threshold so you don't jump out every time
yeah.
you get a blowing of snow. But I think some kind of threshold like that could be a logical one, and we could I mean, it's always the property owner's obligation, but I don't think we should trigger this until we have a kind of an impassability situation. And some winters that might not happen at all. But this winter, we're gonna go 3 weeks of impassable sidewalks, which is just, if our roadways were impassable for 3 weeks, people would go berserk. So I really appreciate that. I think there's some tweaks we can make here, but I'm really excited to finally address something that I'd given up on, us being able to make a difference.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to address this ordinance? Mike?
I'm trying to decide what year, our landlords and whatnot stop shoveling snow. Because when I was a kid, I shoveled snow for 2 or 3 different landlords because it was usually a given that day we weren't going to have school. So, I would hitch a ride into town with my dad and then just go from landlord to property and just shovel. So, it just, I don't know at what point people like me evaporated and kids don't really shovel snow anymore. So, I don't know.
Well, given this enforcement mechanism, it might incentivize them to go back and start employing our high school kids
Yeah.
to earn a little extra money. You had a question or
Yeah,
comment?
I have a few comments. So there's 2 perspectives. There's my place of work in which we contract with someone who, at a drop of a hat, when there's snow, they will come, they'll take care of the sidewalks, they'll take care of the driveway and the parking lot. It's wonderful. And then on the other side, you have my house, which is on the east side of Locust, on North Locust, leading up to Kramer. So when people are talking about how horrible that road is, yeah, they're all rental properties. There's 2 people that are owner occupied, and both of those houses are actually shoveled, and then the other ones are not. So then I'm sitting there like, is it my job, because I want the kids to go to school, that I have to, for free, shovel these property owners' property that they're profiting off of? So I think it's enough that we take their trash cans in. So, and I think that when I saw the last social media post that was put out by the city, I think that it was an interesting choice of language, because I can't remember if it said owner, occupant, and then tenant. Because the times of year that we're talking about, we have J-term, right? The tenants aren't even there.
Right.
So we're blaming these people that don't even exist when they're still paying this property owner that should be taking care of their property. So I appreciate this in terms of the people, and the sad part is there's so few property owners that own a lot of property, that this is who we're talking about. You need to take care of the property that you're profiting off of, and so that kids can walk to school. And so I think that if we can try to make sure the language makes sense, so that we're not saying, hey, college kids who aren't even there in J-term, you need to be the ones shoveling the snow, and that this falls on the property owners, first and foremost. And then on top of that, I think you said that you would send the note from the city at the beginning of the winter season.
I think so.
I would wonder about even sending it earlier, because a good property owner should be contracting with someone reputable and reliable early on.
Yeah.
And so if we can give them time to make that contract, and so that we don't have to just rely on this piecemeal thing, that they can do it. It's not that expensive. This is something that you're making a lot of money, you can do this.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, I have one question, and then I appreciate that there is a wiggle room, because I get very nervous when I go out of town when it might be snowing, like, oh my gosh, what if it snows, and we're staring at the sidewalk, like, should we go sweep it? So I think that it's nice to have very specific times when this will happen. And then if we are out of town, that if something does need to happen, we have an ability to kind of pay that back if something does fall through the cracks. So I appreciate that. And then, so the minor misdemeanor, I would assume that that would come into play if someone doesn't pay their lien on their property, right?
No,
That applies to
it-
anybody.
it's a separate penalty. The tax lien is separate from that. If we implement this, I don't intend to implement the penalty, to be quite frank with you, because, as it stood before, all we had was that penalty. We never enforced it. And once again, it
You're talking about the
doesn't,
misdemeanor, not
Yeah.
the, yeah.
E,
because it doesn't clean the sidewalks.
right.
It,
And that's what we really want.
and we go to court, and the judge may or may not, stick the penalty, so on and so forth. So,
And going back to the earlier question as far as price, because I think you said it would be 40% over, what would it be, 40% over?
over the lineal foot, we'll probably do it per lineal foot, and we had it in 2016 at 8.5 cents. And I apologize, I don't have an estimate right now.
I'm just
current.
curious where that would fall in terms of market rate, because what I don't want to happen is a property owner's like, oh, it's way cheaper, just let the city take care of it.
Well, that's why we got the administrative cost in there at 40%.
Okay. Are there other questions? Is there someone who would be interested in making a motion to amend Section A by,
They could just-
Let me suggest that I'll come back with some
Okay.
amendments, how's that?
let's do that.
Because that was my reasoning for bringing this up, was to get feedback and
Okay.
discuss it.
Because I think we need to take out curbs and gutters.
Yeah,
Well,
there's
the-
no question.
The city manager basically took verbatim what the Ohio Revised Code says. And I think what the Ohio Revised Code is also, and this is why we're assessing people, because maintenance and snow clearance is part of the same chunk of the ORC. So whether that's crumbling sidewalks or snow, it says owner or occupant, curb gutter. So I think we could afford to have our own language about this that carves out, like, we don't want to
Yeah.
absolve the property owner of the responsibility of the maintenance of the curb and gutter, because that includes the replacement. But I think we could have our own local language that talks about the snow. And to be honest, if we're having our own local language, I think we should take out I think it should just be the property owner. The ORC talks about the either party, and that's what the landlords have typically done, is just kind of assume the tenant would do it. I think we need to be hyper clear that it's the property owner's responsibility.
Well, I mean, if the occupant or the tenant goes out and cleans it, that's good.
Yeah, it's good.
But if they don't, then the property owner's gonna get the bill, not the owner or occupant. Now,
Right.
will their rent be raised? Because I think
No.
probably some leases have in there that it's their responsibility to clean it.
Yeah.
And, like you've mentioned, that they're not here during the J term. And January is usually a pretty snowy month.
Yep,
So-
that's usually when we get the big ones.
A question I had is in terms of the implementation of this, because like you say, this is really new. Are we talking about enforcing this in '25, or is something we're imagining phasing in?
Well, if you think about it, the next meeting is 1st of February. 30 days later, it'll be effective. I
Okay.
doubt it. I
Okay.
doubt it.
I appreciate one word in here in C, which is they may remove the snow or ice and charge the expense thereof. So it gives some flexibility, but having the policy
Yeah.
attached, I think doesn't need to be in the ordinance itself.
Yeah,
And that gives you a little bit more flexibility.
yeah.
One thing that I would say I think we're gonna have to do maybe when we communicate with property owners is we have the standard cop-out in southwestern Ohio, but that's gonna make me liable, like, we're gonna hear that from people. Because people, in Ohio, we were talking about this before, that the Supreme Court has ruled that snow is a natural accumulation. You can't be held liable for negligence of not, so you're not liable if you don't clear. But people flip that around to say, well, that would make me liable if I do clear, and that's not really true. But I think we're going to have to, if we're gonna have communication at the beginning of a year that this is an ordinance, I think we always in Oxford and Ohio need to preemptively knock back that, because people are gonna give us that, and it's just not true.
You might want to have
Well,
Chris
it's,
look at
there's
it.
no prohibition against the city requiring their
Yeah.
residents to keep their
Yeah.
property owners snow and ice free.
Okay. Have you gotten enough feedback?
I have.
Okay, so we will see this in some amended form at our next meeting. That is the end of our first readings. We have no second readings, so I'll move to announcements and communications and begin with City Manager
Thank
Doug
you.
Elliott.
I just have one item. The mayor, other city officials attended the Chamber of Commerce annual meeting, and at that meeting, the city received a sustaining sponsor award, or a plaque, for our support of the chamber. And also, Seth Kropenbaker, our economic development specialist, received a 2024 Outstanding Chamber Champion Award for his work with the chamber. So I just wanted to mention that. Congratulate Seth.
Well deserved.
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Michael?
With the last storms, we in essence had 2 storms. They totaled about 20 inches. And there were some gasps when I told you what the cost was. To put that in perspective, that's 2 moderate vehicles crashing at an intersection. So our goal is to make the streets as safe as possible, prevent injury, prevent property damage. So we
Yep.
spend a significant amount of money, but we're also protecting an infinitely amount of more money. So I just wanted to put that in perspective.
Your crews do an excellent job. And when we compare ourselves to other communities in the area, ours are always done first and best.
Yep, we have a great team, no
We do.
doubt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief Jones?
I just wanted to let council know, because I'm not sure I've included you yet on the invite, that next council meeting, before the next council meeting, we will be having a retirement celebration for Lieutenant Laura Fenning. So she's retiring effective January 31st after 31 years of service to the Oxford community. And so at La Rosa's from 5 to 7 before council that night, we'll just have like an open house, the community's invited. And then during the meeting, we'll recognize her here. So just wanted to let the public and council know that, stop by to see her. She's kind of been the face of OPD with a lot of the public affairs she does.
Yep.
And we'll talk more about her next meeting, but
Okay.
want to make sure the public's aware. So,
Thank you, Chief. Heidi?
I wanted to, it's been a while since we had the fee ordinance before you, back in November. So I wanted to just make the public aware, make council aware that with the February billing, the refuse rates, those pass-through rates, those large pass-through rates from Rumpke for commercial properties will be billed out on February 1st. We will add something to the city's website, put a link to the fee ordinance so that people can see it, understand it. The water and sewer rates will also increase for February bill. We always bill a month behind, so the effective rates were for January. But I just want to make you aware.
Thank you, Heidi. Appreciate it. Chief Deathridge?
Nothing tonight.
Okay. Casey?
Nothing for me.
Okay. Sam?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Okay. Jessica?
Just a few items. One, I also want to extend my gratitude to our service department and staff for their hard work and long hours during the snowstorms. It is much appreciated, so I hope they're listening and hear our gratitude. Second, I just want to kind of give an update. I had a good meeting with TOPS today, and I asked them how the cold sheltering was going. So we did jointly fund a cold sheltering program with McCullough Hyde Memorial Hospital and the city to help them do cold sheltering during the coldest months, and they said it's, quote, challenging, but they're working on, they're actively doing it. So it is a hard program for them to operate, however. And so we continue to look at how, right? So I told her, I said, well, keep thinking, keep talking, keep brainstorming, and we're gonna revisit kind of new ideas in August of next year. So we'll keep looking at that. But I wanted to let people know that it is in existence. And then finally, some good news. The Ohio Environmental Protection Agency awarded the city of Oxford a gold level community for our sustainability efforts. And so we have a very nice plaque and a very nice, one of those outdoor signs for a park area. So We got those in the mail today. We'll figure out what to do with them, but I wanted to share with council.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Heather?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay. You have anything?
Nothing for me.
Thanks for coming. Nice to see you. Michael?
I will say that the Oxford Area Solutions for Housing Group will meet next Monday from 5 to 7 at the Presbyterian Church Seminary, and there we will be discussing their annual Point in Place survey, which goes around and tries to put a number on our unhoused population in Oxford. So if you'd like to be involved in that, there is a little bit of training, but you could come to this meeting and sign up. So that's all I
Thank
got.
you very much.
I have a couple things, and I'm glad Sean's here, because is the Oxford Free Press reception happening on Friday at 4? Yes. Where is that at?
3:30 at College and Elm.
3:30? College and Elm, okay, awesome. We are so fortunate to have someone as talented as Sean to be the editor, and to have the Free Press and everyone working on it, and that is just such an important pillar of democracy. And so I can rest better at night just knowing that y'all are out there keeping us safe and accountable. And then thank you, Mike, for bringing up the OSH meeting coming up on Monday. There's really important housing things coming up. So the last 15 minutes of that meeting, I'll be talking about what we talked about at the council retreat as far as the different housing initiatives, the ordinance, kind of where it is continuing to go and has landed so far within the Housing Advisory Committee. So I really encourage people that this is not going away. There are very much people that need help to have a safe home and are having predatory landlords. And then the next one I would say for housing would be on February 6th, so that is a Thursday at, 5 to 6 p.m. It's a Housing Advisory Committee. So I look forward to talking about this further.
Okay, thank you very much. Amber?
Yes, I want to say congratulations to Oxford Senior Center as well for receiving an award from the Chamber of Commerce, Business of the Year Award. All the staff, board members there, congratulations. It was an honor well earned. And then just to say how much I appreciated the MLK services yesterday at OCAC, put together by the NAACP, and the keynote speaker, Tara Trueblood, who talked about meaningful dialogue across differences. It's so important in our personal lives and in our civic lives to be able to communicate with people who have different views, different experiences, and so I thought that was an uplifting program, so thank you for that.
All right, a lot of good things happening. You already mentioned the Oxford Free Press. I love that the Oxford Free Press kept the tradition going of the Oxford Citizen of the Year and the Oxford Citizen of the Years. And I was so happy to see Joe Prescher. I know that the mayor nominated him, I think, among other people, I guess. And Bobby Burke, who we all know for her depth of work in the community. It's all such a nice way to start the year with the people who really make the town as great as it is. I want to also thank preemptively, and Mike's gonna blame me as a jinx. These kind of conditions are really hard on our infrastructure, including our water system, and just when it gets colder than you could possibly imagine, that's when a water main would break. And if you could imagine excavating a hole and standing in a gushing hole in frigid temperatures.
You know we're going to blame you now.
I see it happen every year in conditions like this, and it's a job that we're grateful that talented people know how to do because it's tough. I also just wanted to thank, we kind of just quietly adopted it as part of our consent agenda, but we had a really productive retreat for anybody who's paying attention. The city council, we've really adopted a very much more of a strategic planning model of thinking about the upcoming year and the upcoming budget cycle. We had a great, productive, really well-facilitated retreat last Tuesday. And so if you're curious about some of the things that we're talking about, which right now are kind of draft ideas that we're going to formalize later when we get closer to the budget, that's part of the consent agenda. So we go from throwing ideas up on the wall and trying to prioritize them, but it's a pleasure to be part of a proactive city that we as the people's representatives have a meaningful voice in shaping the direction of things. And so I'm very, very grateful for that. So hope everyone stays warm.
Thank you very much. People have pretty much covered all I had on my checklist. So OSH meeting, Free Press, very important to go to that free press reception, I think. And the OSH meeting is essential, I think, in this time. And you mentioned staying warm. That was on my list, too. It's really bitterly cold. It's been a long time since we've been this cold. I also wanted to give a shout out to our colleague Jason Bracken, who is not here tonight, and the reason he's not here is that his mother passed away. And that's always a very, very difficult thing to go through. Even when you're expecting it, it's hard. And I think if we would all just keep him in our thoughts and our prayers as he's going through a very difficult time this week. And Alex is on business, so that explains the absences today. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.